Hola, buenos días a todos, todas y todes. Estamos partiendo este viernes otro panel. Realmente muy felices, muy contentos porque estamos con una gran invitada que hace mucho tiempo queríamos contar con ella y hoy se da la posibilidad. Y también estamos juntos a un gran moderador también que va a llevar esta conversación. Están conmigo nos van a acompañar hoy día Mette Hoffman. Mette es la directora general y fundadora junto a Nick Fraser de la Fundación de Why. Mette Hoffman ha tenido un largo y reconocido trabajo en su apoyo al documental en la televisión pública danesa, donde estuvo durante muchos años a cargo del área, pero no solamente por su gran impacto local en su comunidad, sino porque también a través de su trabajo ha apoyado a muchos cineastas de todo el mundo. Es un amante, como todos nosotros, del documental. Incluso ha sido galardonada con el premio Doc Mogul justamente por su incantable apoyo y dedicación al desarrollo del género documental. También Mette ha estado detrás de decenas e incontables documentales que han sido muy reconocidos en distintos festivales, incluso algunos galardonados con el Oscar. Y Real Scream la calificó de inconformista por no servir lo obvio y defender los medios independientes, razón también por la que ahora ella nos va a contar más porque dirige el trabajo de Why. Brevemente, The Why Foundation, porque ya lo va a explicar después, fue fundada en 2004, como lo señalé, junto a otra gran figura del mundo documental, Nick Fraser, y de alguna manera The Why trata de que los documentales, sobre todo derechos humanos, estén al alcance de todos y ha logrado una red colaborativa muy importante junto con cineastas, televisoras públicas, festivales, medios independientes para poder llegar hoy a más de 200 países y territorios y ya tiene una alianza de más de 70 aliados, incluyendo estas emisoras, organizaciones locales, escuelas, etcétera. Así que bueno, ella nos va a ir contando mucho más de por qué y cuál es el gran alcance que está teniendo The Why hoy. Y junto a ella, quien va a moderar la conversación, es otro gran querido amigo, Rodrigo Moreno. Rodrigo es director ejecutivo del canal de la Universidad de Chile, que recién está partiendo en este último tiempo. También es profesor asociado de la Facultad de Comunicaciones de la Universidad Católica, tiene una gran experiencia en la docencia, está detrás de la formación de grandes talentos hoy día chilenos, no solo del documental, sino que también de la ficción. Y bueno, Rodrigo también es una persona que también está ligada mucho a la televisión, durante muchos años dirigió el emblemático programa El Show de los Libros y también tuvo un impacto muy importante dentro de nuestro medio local y también a nivel latinoamericano a través de todo el trabajo que desarrolló con la productora Nueva Imagen, que fue una de las primeras productoras independientes muy relevantes que se formaron después de que volvimos a la democracia. Así que nada, realmente honrada de contar con ustedes, de que empezar esta conversación y que podamos conocer mucho más del trabajo de Why. Les recuerdo que este panel se está transmitiendo por Facebook, por YouTube, y los que requieran traducción simultánea, porque va a ser en inglés, la pueden escuchar a través de webinar, ¿ya? Y también dar las profundas gracias a nuestras Paulinas, que están aquí detrás, que no se ven, que nos están apoyando con la traducción del lenguaje de señas, que es una manera también que estamos tratando de lograr mucho más alcance inclusividad a través también de nuestras acciones. Bueno, sin más que decir y nuevamente muy contenta de compartir este momento, dejo a Mette y a Rodrigo para que sigan aquí la conversación. Gracias.
Gracias, Paola. Welcome, Mette. Welcome to this conversation. Oh. Do you hear me?
No, it's very low.
It's very low.
Now it's hot. No, it's fine now.
It's okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
Paola made a great introduction for you. I'm curious, just to a kind of a kickoff of this conversation, where does the motivation to found the Why, that foundation, your foundation, came from? Is there a particular moment? Is there kind of a turning point in your life that triggered this decision to create this foundation? Does your work on the Danish public TV influence in the creation of the Why?
Yeah, so I worked for too many years, no, not too many years, actually love public service TV. And I think public service TV and free access to information is one of the most important things you can work with in your life. I think it's very influential, and I know there's a huge difference between public service TV in the various countries, and I think Scandinavian public TV is very different to American PBS or South American, but to be able to, for so many years, to provide stories from all around the world, get people's challenges and emotions and lives and joys, to get people from far away close to Danish citizens and to get to know the world through great stories is just a real pleasure for me. It has always been. I found a very early stage when I was invited to places around the world in the 90s where you have these sort of 2 days pitching sessions in South Africa or wherever it was, that you feel really privileged. I mean, I'm coming from a very privileged country, but you feel privileged that you go into a country and you hear young people stories they really want to tell because it's important in where they come from and where it is, and you feel you actually have you have a possibility to help these stories be made, and that's that. So I was really fortunate that I came from a privileged place where we had a little bit of funding. We could help young filmmakers from China, Brazil. The first actually South American film, I think I made, was not the first, but was Boss 174. I can't remember how many years that was, but it's so old. But so I've always really appreciated working with local filmmakers and get this authenticity and urgency to the stories. Then when we started the Y, it was called Steps International, and it started as a kind of an umbrella organization to public TV stations. So we were a big number of editors like me from Finland, Ika Vekkalahti, Nick Fraser from BBC, and me and others. And we thought about how we could set the big agendas, which was difficult for us as documentary commissioning editors to do, of budget reasons and our reasons. And so we did a big project called Steps for the Future in 1999 about the pandemic of HIV/AIDS in Southern Africa. And there we realized that how much we could gain by working together as commissioning editors. And we then discussed in, I think it was 2004 or 5 or something, how how we could set an agenda. And it was Nick Fraser who said, we had a long talk, but he said, what about democracy? Because at that time, we still do, maybe go to war for democracy. And democracy means different things to different people all around the world. Even between Sweden and Denmark, it's different, what we think about democracy. So we thought, what about sort of a systemic theme or like democracy? And we then got together and we asked for filmmakers to come up with ideas and films on democracy from around the world. And we, at that time, needed to do 10 films on democracy. And they went out on quite many TV stations. And some of the films, like the Chinese little wonderful film, and if you're listening and haven't seen it, go online on the Y YouTube channel and watch Please Vote for Me. It's a wonderful classic film about Chinese school class. The film is now used in universities like Oxford and Columbia, and I mean it's still being used even so many years after. And then after that we did White Poverty, and then that was in 12th. And then we did then I stopped working at DR in 17, which I decided when I was 60 I wouldn't work there anymore. And then I would go full-time, actually voluntarily, into the Y and try and structure it and build it more systemic. So long story for a short question.
Yeah, I know. It's a long story, and there's a lot of work that you have done until today. And I read at your website that this sentence: we secure free access to reliable information for 600 million people across the 191 countries around the world.
Yeah, I think
it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not. It depends on whether you're American again or whether you're Danish, because I think what you have read was about why slavery. 100 million per film, which is a very conservative estimation.
Really?
But if you have 6 films, then it's 600 million. Yeah, it's super conservative, but you know, we are very conservative in Denmark with numbers. I mean, we don't talk so much about, you know, there's a new, I don't know what it's called, like a way they call impressions, you know. So if you put a poster up on a motorway where 1 million cars are passing, then you would say that why slavery, if you had had a poster there, would have had 4 million impressions, right? But we try and see, does it make sense? I mean, do you know, I mean, obviously, I mean, we are on a TV station where they have, in China, for instance, I mean, I don't know, 60 million viewers. And I think a lot of countries you would then say, then you have 60 million viewers, but we say documentaries are viewed by few, but then China documentaries are actually viewed by many. You know, so you have to go in each country and find out, you know, what's plausible, what's reasonable, what can you, anyway. So, but we reckon around 100 million per film, and and it's a lot of people. But I want to, maybe if I can just explain a bit, because I think we as a documentary society have done too little to reach the real underserved people with documentaries that can inform and engage, and maybe also aspire to changes. Because we, in the sort of international documentary, I don't know, environment or whatever, there's a lot of focus on festivals and seeing the right places and all these things, and which is fine. And, you know, and I've always, of course, been very proud if you win an Oscar or if you've been involved in or get to Sundance or Sheffield or whatever. But what our real challenge has been, and where we have really let people down, is we have not really put an effort into, you know, getting our films to a mother in Texas who are homeschooling her children and don't believe in science and, you know, whatever. Or I don't know how it is in Chile, but, you know, to really get the films out to normal people, to the average people. And so I've always thought that's the most important thing, to include everyone. So all the time, and particularly with the why, we put a lot of effort into including people who are most underserved. And what do we mean by that? I mean, obviously, we think that everybody has access to the internet, so we can just, a lot of funders, even Ford Foundation, say, oh, but you can just put them online and people have access. But actually 3.6 billion people, so nearly half, have no access at all to internet. Half of the world's population speak only one local language, so 4 billion. 1 billion cannot read and write. And then there's there's no electricity or power, you know, there's all kinds of obstacles. So actually to really want to reach this other half, the half of the world's population, the poorest or the most underserved, we have realized and done a lot of, you know, investigation into, we have to language version the films. We short them to 45 minutes so they're more accessible. If it's a 90-minute film, we buy, you know, on completion. And that also means they can be used in school connections. So our 4 platforms, if we take in a film, then it's going out on BBC World News, who acquired 20 films per year from us. And there you reach 40% of the world's decision makers. It's said that even Kim Jong-un in North Korea is watching BBC World News. and particular in countries where they don't have access to their own sort of reliable news. You know, business people, politicians in many countries where it's a bit dodgy, the reliability of their own country's news. They watch BBC World News. And then, you know, average public service, free TV, as many places as possible. We work with TAL TV in South America and Futura in Brazil and others, where we donate the film to them, and hopefully it gets out to many places. We understand that sometimes 28 TV stations, regional and local, watch our films there. And then, so free access TV all over the world, as many places as possible. And then we have NGOs and schools, you know, so we do school screenings in Nigeria. We just had 9,000 children in northern Nigeria watching films about trafficking of girls and the cutting of girls, you know. And then the fourth is our YouTube channel that we actually just started to work with like a year ago, and we now have 13 million. We just crossed 13 million watching that. So you know, so we try and see how can we meet people in different places, but it's the same film. It's not different films. Yeah.
Yes. This is really interesting, because you said that the way you try to reach the audience, try to reach the common people, is not getting into the usual standard distribution through festivals or theater cinemas, but at the same time it's not the other way, which is supposed to be television. You create a more complex network of leaders, politicians, or YouTube, or different kind of. Is this a matter of distribution? Is this a matter of distribution, or at the same time it's a matter of content, kind of content?
Yeah. So to get on to read, you can say to. And of course, it's very different from one part of the world to another part of the world.
Yeah.
But there are, I mean, I believe that there are such a thing as a good story. And I always refer to, obviously being Danish, to Hans Christian Andersen, the little girl with a matchbox box. It's a good story. It's hardy. You know, Hans Christian Andersen was the only foreign writer that the Chinese were allowed to read for their children. During Mao and during the, you know, the censorship, well, I guess it still is, but because he has this sort of social-political, he was always trying to speak for the poorest or the weakest, or in his fairy tales and stories like that travel the world. And I believe that if you find the right stories that are not twisted and, you know, that are telling about other people's lives or a system or a riot or whatever, but you do it with the purpose of telling what's really going on without your own private little agendas, but just be fact-based and pursuing the truth as far as you can do that, then it will work all over the world. And that's the stories we try and find. We acquire 20 films per year, and then we also produce films. And at some point you can just put our landing video on, and, you know, people can have a look at that.
And how do you define that a documentary project is within your editorial guidelines in terms of human rights or democracy or poverty, or how do you say, this is okay for us? How do you...
Good story. Got good question. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, you know, when I was at TV, we bought sort of many films every year, 600-700 films, and we screened a lot of films, and I still screen a lot of films, not as many as I used to do. I feel that if you know, within the first 5 minutes, understand what story you're going to see, not in the terms that you know the ending, but you are in an environment somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
And you feel engaged, you like the character,
Ah.
maybe not like or dislike or whatever, but you can feel there's some kind of maybe even urgency to the story, that you know that the person who you film or the characters are, you know, they want to tell a story that's important for them. I think that's one of the means. And actually, I think all stories can be really good. I don't have I don't have sort of an editorial if they do like this or in the way of telling stories, but I really, what I hate is this, I call them do-good delusion films.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is a do-good delusion film? I like, and it's when you have a hidden agenda. So you want, let's say, you want people to be vegans or something, and then you just screw the story. You put the story together so that every conclusion you get to shows that don't eat meat or don't eat. I mean, this is not whether I'm positioned for eating meat or not meat. I'm just saying that these very clear agenda-driven stories that are not looking into complexity, I don't like them. And I don't like sort of when, you know, take sort of I don't like films that are also sort of too focused on finding a hero. I mean, because I don't really think anyone is a hero. Some people do, some, you know, sometimes by luck, but also because they fight hard. But others are also heroes. I mean, you know, it's if the film is constructed to tell here's a hero. I remember after Nelson Mandela died, there was an African young filmmaker who made a film about his, and he had actually made it before Mandela died. And it was a little, you know, complex film because, you know, 20 years after apartheid finished, and I mean, there's still a lot of problems in South Africa. And he was kind of recalling when he was child how they were all waiting for, you know, democracy and Black participation and in the society. But it was also a little critical, saying that, you know, Mandela did not actually manage really to resolve the rule of law, crime, you know, bribery within the police system. I can't remember. It's a long time since I saw it, but, you know, that film he just couldn't place anywhere because people at that time, all the TV stations, only wanted to show entirely 100% positive Mandela story. This was not it was a tribute to Mandela, but it was also saying it's not easy. Do you know what I mean? And I like this kind of complexity to stories. I like that it's trying to not make it too simple.
I got it. Yeah.
I mean, I like a simple storyline, but I like that it includes complexity into the story.
As far as we have talked now, I understand that the why is act like a kind of empowerment to content to outreach more countries, more people. But do you do you finance or do you produce directly documentaries?
Yeah, but I think maybe we should show the landing video.
Okay.
Because then we get into another part now.
Yeah.
Because the landing video show why we do why stories.
Great.
And now we go.
तुम कब से काम कर रही हो? डिफरेंस कब से चल रही है?
These 8 documentaries are going to set a standard, I think, in terms of storytelling. And as I like to say, that when we open people's heart, we often open their minds.
This is the launch of the biggest ever global media campaign that will really put the spotlight on the scourge of modern day slavery.
Tonight, we can start a global conversation by asking the question, why?
For this special event to open a whole new door for Mongolians to see the world from another perspective.
So I was trying to move to the production area of the Y Foundation.
Yeah. So basically, we have, in terms of content, two columns. So one is what we call Y Stories, where we acquire 20 already made films.
Yeah.
We also acquire sometimes on rough cuts or get rough cuts, so we can help, that way. But in principle, it's already completed films. And then we put them out in our distribution field. Then we work with themes where we do global calls. Right now we're working on 3 films on plastic and the climate. These films are commissioned. And when we do these kind of thematics, we basically, we have had a researcher on plastic for 2 years. We then try and figure out what kind of stories would be important to add to the plastic and climate debate. And then we talk to filmmakers and ask filmmakers around the world whether they have some great stories on plastic. And then basically we try, and that would be the same situation as the filmmakers watching this, if there are any, but also that we beg, we go around Danish TV, Swedish television, BBC, ZDF, ARD, NHK, CBC, and not beg, but, we pitch to them the same way as anyone else. Yeah. And then, we got it financed, luckily. So we are ready to go into production now. Yeah. We are been delayed because of COVID-19, but I think that is actually been good for us because, now we can include the whole COVID-19 impact, both on the psychological thinking of plastic or the practical thinking of plastic, but also the impact it has on it. And that we have a little editorial group to find out what kind of stories we should do. So the long films are now in production, but we are, and it can be a little cold. We are looking for shorts now, and that's called OFF Festival, which is one of the biggest short film festivals also in Denmark. But we will be running a competition there where award-winning films would get an award, and they can enter their films there. It will be announced, I think, next week or something. And so we'll be looking for short films about plastic, and it can be in principle anything, but again, sort of, fact-based or poetic. It could even be,
I'm sure there are many people here watching us, filmmakers, or producers. They're asking how to approach the Y Foundation. How can they reach you and try to start conversation to think or create a project or a documentary? How
So
can
when I was younger, I was more brave. I would say a big bottle of champagne, and then no, that was a joke. And I have, we have to say when things are a joke now, because we're not allowed to joke. It's very difficult to joke. But no, I mean, it's quite easy. We have an info at thewhy.dk where you can send your proposals or your ideas, or if you have cuts. And I can say, I never judge from trailers. I would rather like to see scenes or a rough cut. I mean, just it's much better basically to send a whole rough cut to me than a trailer, because trailers are they're twisting your mind. You know, you think, and it's often it's the best 3 scenes that are put together, and then the rest of the film is boring. So to avoid that, it's better for us to see scenes and rough cuts. And we have a call now because we just got financed 20 new films. So you know, if anyone has like rough cuts or finished completed films that are within the last 3 or 4 years, we can have a look at them. We have just picked up a film called Frontline Favela from Brazil. A really great film that I don't even think they have a distributor, but that was just sent to us, so it's possible. And actually, I prefer to get these films just in and see, you know, watch them. But it's quite easy, and obviously we have at some point right now. We have a call out, we send it out, and I think if within your network or the festival, that maybe you can. We just actually put a call up on our Facebook or something 2 days ago. So maybe you can just share it on your Facebook with all the participants or people who are connected to the festival.
I was asking because I at your website I checked that a beautiful map of the world with red pins almost all over the world, all the continents.
Not Chile.
It's not Chile.
I know. We haven't found it, but actually, I would say it's not really updated. We are very few people. You won't believe it, but we are 6 people working.
Oh wow!
And I work pro bono, and it's very sad. No money, no. But actually, we have quite good funding now. But we are 6 people, and then volunteers.
Yeah.
There's 5 or 6 volunteers at any time, and we try and be small and spend the money on language versions. And you can say some of the why stories is basically, you can think of it as a recycling idea. We take films already made. Maybe they've had, you know, their commercial life. Maybe it has been possible to sell it somewhere. But that's normally Western story, you know, like Germany or whatever, Arte or something. And then we can give these films a longer life, you know, and give them also maybe what I call a meaningful life. They really get out in the corners of the world and inspire people. And so that's our thinking. If we can give films a longer life and a meaningful life, it's, you know, directors, they have worked on a film for so long time and often 2 or 3 years. And, you know, it maybe gets into a few festivals and maybe I mean, sometimes it's also hugely successful, but most of the films made, it's kind of the 1% rich and the 99% poor. It's the same in our business. There's so many great films, but they just don't make it. And you know, we can sometimes take these films in and they get a really nice life, you know, creating debates and dialogues around the world about whatever topic on human rights. So. Yeah.
Before talking about Chile, because I want to ask you more things about Chile, how do you deal with the uprising of a new formats, or I mean transmedia or experimental things? How do you deal with that kind of projects?
I don't deal with them at all. So that's a very simple answer. I don't deal with them at all. And I think also, you know, most of the world now, we can see that, you know, to twist people's minds. I remember there was a film in Denmark made by where our former prime minister, the scene started with him being shot. That's maybe not unusual in South America, but in Denmark, it's really unusual. And I think, okay, and then it was made like a documentary, you know, and then in 50 years time, you would have some kids or other people watching this and say, what, was he shot? Was John F. Kennedy, was he shot? Not John F., you know, somebody else. I believe that if you do these films, they are not should be called documentaries. They should be called something else, but not documentaries. I think I'm very old-fashioned that way, and I don't even want to call it old-fashioned, because I also think we can see in many places in the world that you know, if you go back in my interviews, I've talked about fact-based stories and how important it is not to try and persuade people into some idea with unsustainable arguments. So we have a very strict, rigid, I would say, underlying documentation requirements. We want to know how everything is shot, you know, if it's with hidden cameras, if they have been allowed to film. I mean, it's fine. I've shown films with hidden cameras, many we've made also, but we just need to know what's the agreement with the people who are in the film. We had actually a film where there was wrong numbers in it, so we sit and check the numbers, you know, and if they have like, I can't remember, 4,000. It was sort of I can't remember the example, but many examples where, you know, they might say something about how many, I don't know, ethnic, whatever, people in a country, and these things has to be accurate. And also you should have the desire to tell a story that is truthful or accurate as you can.
Yeah.
And that is extremely important to me. And I think we can also see in the world today with our luckily now disappearing president, how he has managed to undermine the media, you know, by just repeating that it's fake news and it's not real and it's blah, blah, blah. And I think that's a public service, and I am public service in my mind. We have to stand very firm on being accurate and scientifically based. And even, you know, if you want to say in a film that I am an idiot, you know, I think the person who making the film about me is she really an idiot? You know, and do you know what I mean? There should be some kind of good reason for even somebody participating or being interviewed saying something outrageous. Not that it should be dull and, you know, whatever, you know, too political correct. I hate political correctness. I like things that sticks out a bit. But I just think it's important to have that public service. And I mean, there are other people who could do all kinds of cross genres, and Copenhagen Docs is a good example. They love cross genres, and I think that is fine, but it's just not for me and for the why, and for, you know, we reach people who have never seen documentaries before. If you that scene where we are in Mongolia, what they say, you know, now Mongolians are going to see the world with other eyes. They have never had a documentary strand. They have never had screenings about them. We were the first ones showing social political documentaries. And they created a weekly strand there with our films, really successful. But then they had we had a film about gay rights. And for the first time in this new emerging democracy in Mongolia, they put LGBT people on TV for debating the issue. And then the old communists, they closed down the whole strand. So now they're fighting to get it back. So, you know, we also in these cutting edge situations. And that's why it's important to have it accurate when you go somewhere and tell a story. You know, it must be. It must be real.
It's very interesting, this point, because human rights documentaries are always been it's my opinion, can be in a very traditional representation, and there are so many other ways to communicate realities. Being accurate, factual based.
So give me a good example of a film that's not old. I mean,
I understand. I mean,
give me a good example of a human rights film that's very experimental.
No, very experimental. I can go back in time and talk about Night and Fog of Alain Resnais, or some kind of documentaries of Patricio Guzman, who are very poetic way to approach to human rights things, issues. But I think that you are open.
Nobody watches these films. Also, it's also this thing that I think you want to reach. I mean, I'm not driven by audience, but I'm driven. Many people should watch it, and I think if you want people from schools in Denmark to TV in Lebanon or Palestine to Futura in Brazil or whatever Mongolian TV, you have to have a beginning and a middle and an end, and you have to have a premise for the film that this is the story you're going to see, because and this is the problem we want to raise, or whatever it can be, and I think it's dangerous to play too much with reality to be to be standing out from the rest. I think there's so many fantastic films and fantastic stories, and I still think within the frame of wanting to tell human interest stories that there are many experiments. I mean, Walls of Bashir is a good example where I normally don't like animation films, and often I don't like it. I mean, I don't know, but you kind of tend to think, do I like this animation or don't I like it? And particularly if you have real footage, and then suddenly there's some animation, and then real footage, and then and this animation is only there because they couldn't tell the full story, right? Or there's also many examples where people make it black and white to make it arty, but that's only because it's a boring film. Otherwise, if you put colors on it, it would be extremely boring.
Yeah, but I understand that you're focused on the audience. You're focused in how to reach the audience the best way.
I think that it should be all communicators first. Also even if you work with commercials and books and everything, you have to think about the people you want to reach, and not about yourself and your own self-satisfaction. It's these people. And of course, with the why, because we want to reach many different kind of people, many people with different traditions, religions, ethnicities, and so on a global scale, it wouldn't work if we are too weird, right? I think it's weird. Maybe that's a bad word, but to use not the right word to. I think that. To have a global point of view, but still think about the person who is going to see this film. Who are they? If it's a 14-year-old in a school in Nigeria watching a film about trafficking, you have to be real. You have to be just telling how it is, and not, of course, to have spaces so people can reflect on what they see, and have breaks. And it's also fine to have landscapes or dreams or whatever, but it's good. I don't know, when you see a good story, it's a good story. I don't want to put too many restraints on what we like and what we don't like, but absolutely that it should be fact driven, and not fact, because I think you misunderstand that, but driven by the desire to tell a story about people's lives as it is.
Yes, I think I understand, and it's very clear. Do you have another video that we can watch now?
Yes. So because we are doing this call also, I mean, that was maybe not on purpose, but on short films for plastic. So this is our little plastic trailer. So we are doing these 3 feature docs on plastic. And it will all go out in the late of this year. We're a little delayed because of COVID-19, but and it's a co-production with lots of TV stations, who has funded it. And that's another thing, you know, if you want to reach as many people as possible, you can actually only have them funded more or less only by TV, you know, independent public service TV stations. If you have weird funding, you know, with vested interest, or, you know, I couldn't have Lego, you know, the toy Lego. They couldn't, I mean, I couldn't ask them to help funding it because they work with plastic. So to have your integrity, to stay independent, get independent money if possible.
Yeah.
And that's what we have here. So we have NHK and we have CBC Canada, and we have both ARD and ZDF are on board, and BBC, and so that's how it's funded. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funded trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a dream of the future. So in the years ahead, dreams like this and many more will become realities.
Figure out how to answer on chat asking the length. We're actually looking for 90-second films for you know, social media and for outreach, but also to breaks on TV, you know, like you can put all these short films. I couldn't answer on the chat, so
yeah. The chat is just saying hello and greetings.
Yeah. and I wanted to answer back, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So, but now I said it. Yeah.
Okay. Is anybody in this, the viewers of this conversation have any question? Please send us. I would like to ask you about the Chilean context. Here in Chile, we don't have a proper public media. Our public TV is not really a public TV. So how can Chile become a partner of the Y through what kind of organizations can be relate with you? That's my first question.
Yeah, so it's super easy. If there's some people here in this panel and other places, we we have some countries why, people who like what we do, and they become sort of a why representative.
Yeah.
And then so one of the activities we have is we call it Ask Why Dog Club, where we show films to schools or in schools 3 to 4 times a year. And we produce a school curriculum so that teachers can prepare and they can talk about it afterwards. In Denmark, we invite them to cinemas, and other places is in the school on small screens. And we are just doing now an outreach. We just got funding to show films in India in 70 towns, schools there. And it's, of course, our films are not for small children, but from 14 to 17-year-olds and high schools, 14, 15 years up. And it's extremely, they're doing really well. I'm really surprised by sort of the impact reports we get back when we interview teachers and children in a country, like Denmark, where we think we've had lots of immigration problems. It's minor to many other places, I guess, but still, it says that it's an empathy booster when they run our program 3 times a year. They have debates afterwards and Q&A, and it's the Danish kids, they include the new children in a better way. There's less harassment, so less bullying. So it has a lot of real impact on the children to watch films from all over the world about other children's desire, but also it could also be cutting of girls, or just to understand the world. And the teacher says that even, they refer to the film 3 or 4 months after they have seen it maybe in math class or something, it's interesting to see. And I think that's what we would really be interested in, to find a collaborator who would show films in schools in Chile. And I might also have a funder for it, I don't know, but I met some really rich Chilean guy. I understood afterwards he was very rich, but maybe it's possible to find funding for it, but to show our films in schools, and we can provide the language versions, and we can provide. So it's basically to find somebody who would organize it and make sure they get out there, and find somebody who can do Q&A with the children afterwards. Is important, of course, and also have to translate, and also, I guess, adopt our educational material, so it fits into the children's mindset in the individual countries. But that's something we would really love to work with somebody in Chile. And basically, I don't know, isn't there a small educational channel in Chile?
Yes, it's a new channel, a kind of educational channel, which is starting here in Chile in the last year, but it's just starting. It doesn't have a kind of other activities out of the screen. I mean, it's just a screen thing. It's on the screen.
Is it a channel on YouTube, or is it
no? It's a
real channel. But I mean, again, there we have now lots of films, so they could do a wise brand like BBC World News is doing, where they show our films once a week or in seasons, and they can do seasons of women's rights and other rights, or just show great documentaries about the world, as they did in Mongolia and many other places. We work with many Lebanon, Palestine, so where they create a strand and show our films as once a week, a new film, and also to build an audience. And we're very privileged in Europe with all these documentaries on TV that people are actually watching.
I wonder if you know, are you do you know something about Chile the last 2 years? I mean, in 2019. there was a huge movement, a social movement, a kind of a revolt here in Chile. A very important one, a very huge one.
There's a film about it in the pitching session.
Yes. And I wonder if, because I know that you were involved in a documentary about Pussy Riot.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that we have here within this huge movement, there's a group of women called Las Tesis, who have became very well known and famous. I mean, all around the world, doing some kind of human rights activities and demonstrations.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of things are happening here in Chile?
Yeah, no, I try and follow politics around the world, and I try and, read New York Times and Economist. And Economist is actually a really good, you won't be, but like Economist is good because they have these sort of small inserts about what's going on all over the world and, how it impacts. So I try and follow these, China Southern and stuff like that. It's, of course, I'm not succeeding in following everything in details, but I have an idea of what's going on. And when I watch films also, I try and figure out, then I go online and see what's happening in the country. Yeah. And, I also know a few people from Chile, and so.
Yeah, someone is asking through the chat if the Y organization support with money projects that are in development, not in the first cut or the rough cut, in development. Do you have some funds for that?
No, unfortunately, no money for development, and it's quite in a way, maybe it's sad, but it's I would love to have money for it, but it's because and maybe it's a wrong place that I say this now, but there's enormous amount of films being produced around the world. But actually the big challenge for films is that very few see them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we have kind of a board, and when we started the Y, say we would concentrate in getting films out to people not so much producing. And that's why we spend our money on language versions and distribution. I mean, not distribution in a normal sense, but donating the films. We donate the films to all these countries. Scaled. If they can pay $100, it's fine. Also, we think that it's a good idea if people can pay a little bit, because we also know then that they will show the film. It's not lying somewhere. Mm-hmm. But in principle, we have a scale donation system, and so no, unfortunately, yeah.
During there's a lot of work you have done since 2004 until now, and you have reached a lot of countries, a lot of people. How do you see now? How is this environment? I mean, documentary TV, public TV, and how is this developing now, and how do you think it's going to be in the future? Are we in a good moment? Do you think that we are moving towards a better landscape on this media and documentary?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's really difficult to predict the future.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of, like we all know, Amazon and Netflix and all the online providers. It's it's a pay. It has a paywall, so not everyone can afford to pay to get on Netflix, I guess. So. And I also have this, I mean, right now in America, I understand that filmmakers talk about that they bury their film on Netflix. So Netflix buys films, but if it's not like, they buy them to win Oscars and to win whatever. But if it's not on their priority list, the films disappears. And I know some filmmakers who have had no responses to the film from other people in the world because they never find it, right? Whereas in the old days, and still, I mean, when we did Slavery in 2018, you know, going out on BBC, you have 4 million viewers, and some of them responds, right? And if you then add Sweden, Denmark, you know, all these other TV, Japan, you actually know you're being seen, and you also get sort of, you know, on Facebook or whatever, notes from people, oh, I saw your film. And so it does not really happen on Netflix, but for documentaries, I understand with the Queen, the drama series that run with the girl playing chess, that all chess plays, whatever chess are sold out because people have started to play chess. But it's also a series that they have promoted heavily. And I think, you know, that it's not, there's a lot of also foundations that we talk to. They say, oh, but you have your YouTube channel and that's fine. And, you know, then the poor people in, I don't know, in Chile, they can always watch YouTube channel. And of course they can, but, you know, if they don't speak English and if they don't, we are actually launching Arab speaking YouTube channel and soon also Portuguese, you know, Spanish speaking. And then, of course, you can do that, but there's still half of the world's population who have no internet access, you know. So I think, but in terms of, I guess you think for Chilean filmmakers, it's just extremely hard if you don't have an institution that helps local filmmakers, whether it's a film fund or. And I have to say, I hope people will not get too angry with me when I say that. But we do screen, and we have actually had, you know, employees in Argentina and other to find South American films. And we always have problems in, you know, when we try and fact check the films. And it's very clear that a lot of filmmakers, just like many other places in the world, they make these wonderful films and they work very hard on it, but there is no, you know, if you write a book, you would have a publisher who says, work a little bit here, and maybe you should shorten there. You know, there's an editorial feedback. And I feel that for many films that I see, it's not only now I say South America, I mean, it's also stupid, right? It's like saying Europe, but you know, that there is no editorial feedback or no editorial dialogue. And I think in my country, a lot of filmmakers, they've gone to film schools, and they have learned to work with each other, not as an enemy or a competitor, but actually some who goes in and are critical to cuts or rough cuts, and work together to see other people's cuts and help, you know, to find a way to make better rough cuts so they can be funded or get to festivals or whatever. I think that's actually a good thing. And then I don't know what, I mean, we have tried, you know, over the years to make all kinds of initiatives to start an environment or, you know, a place where people can do stories, whether it's in the Arab world and the Middle East or Southern Africa. And so it's really, really hard if there's no local funding system. Because obviously Danish TV or the Y or another commission editor, you cannot go on funding, you know, local, not enough films from these countries. So it's I don't know. I have no advices except that try and find some rich people who will fund it, like George Soros. If you have a local Chilean winemaker who's earned a fortune by selling, I don't know, whatever you have of rich people, who think that maybe it is a good idea to have informed citizens and to have a participatory democracy, and you know, when inequality becomes too big, you will have riots, and you know, I don't know. But it has to be the good rich people. But there are quite many good rich people who want to pay a little bit back.
Maybe there's a few
But they don't want, they never want to pay everything back, but just a little bit.
No, I think that your advice is a good advice in terms of the to be accurate and all the facts things. I mean, you can check if you can check your facts.
About the first 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Do I know what the story is? You know, because nobody's actually, you know, sitting in front and say, I have no idea what I'm going to. It's only me. I like that idea, but most people, they would like to say, oh, this is about a riot in Chile, and they have huge inequality, and they have maybe a bad, I don't know what, but you know, and here we are going to follow a freedom fighter who's maybe have political threats because she's a publisher or a newspaper or whatever, fighting for free speech or something like that. Or, you know, we have shown some films also from South America about indigenous people where the oil firms have ruined their livelihood and the water is polluted and, you know, things like that. But I think it's really sad that, I tell you a little funny story that I always tell, and I don't always tell, but I will. This is a secret between you and the other people, and that Danish filmmakers, we think we are really, really fantastic because we go to so many festivals and our films are selected here and there and everywhere. But actually we have a film fund and they pay for the participation in the festivals and the entry fee. And obviously, I always say, but if you're a filmmaker in Poland or another place, you cannot even afford the entry fee.
Yeah.
So, you know, so when we think the Danish, you know, duck family, that we are super, you know, make great films, it also because we are lucky, right, and living where we live, and of course we have spent lots of money. We have great film schools and we have a great film institution that support all our films, and it's something like that you have to fight for within your own country, I guess. But I don't know if it's possible.
No, I think it's possible.
You have to believe. Yeah,
I believe.
You have to have the hope, right? Yeah.
Well, Mette, we have reached the end of this conversation. I would like to thank you. Your participation has been very interesting and very give us a lot of ideas and open our minds, I think. So thank you. And I hope that many Chilean people or organizations will contact you soon. So we will meet again.
They are welcome to send us films, and you know, not 10-year-old films and not sort of a historical. It has to be, if it's history films, it has to have it's contemporary film that goes back, that has some root explanations, but not root explanations that goes to now, you know, like and then of course social political stories we are interested in, and we are interested in stories that tells about lives, basically, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mette, and
thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I wish that one day could go to Chile.
Yes, will be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Y buenas tardes, no, buenos días todavía, estamos en la mañana, pero...
Buenos días.
Buenos días, sí. Así que nos vemos. Este ha sido una nueva encuentro en Chile Doc Conecta con Mette Hoffman de The Why Foundation, y espero que nos sigamos viendo en las próximas actividades de Chile Doc Conecta. Muchas gracias a todos y nos vemos.